Yo, what's good, folks? Welcome back to my Charmander YouTube channel. We're going to take a look at this chess game. This guy from Britain is playing white. We're playing black. He plays pawn to e4. We play pawn to c6. We're trying to develop my queen pawn to d5 to try to take control of the center. Challenge and takes. Bishop, we do have some commentary over here as well if you guys want to read. Bishop is putting my king in check. I block it with the knight. Uh, this is saying maybe bishop here would be a good move, but it's kind of like an x-ray attack. It's a pin, so I can't move my knight. So I really don't like having my knights unable to move with this bishop here. His knight is taking or is attacking my queen pawn. We pop the bishop out. The queen is still protecting this pawn. We want to make sure that we get this bishop off to a good square here. Knight comes, and this can be a tricky situation where now we have the knight and the bishop attacking this c6 square. I've made mistakes in the past where uh, maybe I'll pop a pawn up here, and then or I'll move a knight up or something. But the knight will take, pawn takes, and then bishop has this fork on the king and the rook. So be careful about that. You missed a better way to add a defender to a vulnerable knight. He's saying move the rook over to c8. I'm developing my queen. What does this guy know? So he trades out for the knight. I take it with the pawn. It pushes the bishop back, which is fine. We then develop my king pawn here to e6, defending d5. This is similar to London opening. Castling gets the king out of the center of the board while also developing the rook. The reason I popped my bishop out here, um, a lot of people recommend right here you're attacking the king here. The reason I put it up here is because I felt like there's nothing really defending the knight besides these two pawns. So if I do take it, he's gonna have to double pawn. He moves his rook in aligned with my king. Develop my knight. You stopped your opponent from being able to win material because defender is pinned. He moves his pawn up, and at this point, if my bishop is under attack, yes, this is a strong bishop to put on this square or this square, pinning down the king here. Arguably, you could move it to one of these squares, might have been better, but at this point, I'm like, let's just take his knight. He's gonna have to double pawn. So he's moving one of his center pawns out, and so now his queen and his rook have very strong control of this middle aisles, which I do not like, but my pawn structure here is pretty solid. This pawn's a little weak with only the queen protecting it, and it's pinning my king. So I decide to castle to the left. Oh, let's see. We move my knight here because this is threatening an early checkmate. If I had my bishop here, put it back here instead, and we attacked. See, this knight is attacking two pawns here. That would have been nice to attack the king and the rook. But anyways, we move the knight there. He pushes his pawn up, which does stop my attack. We then go ahead and castle to the king side. Nice straight pawns, best defense when castling. My knight here is not under threat. What I wanted to do was get my my queen here to b6, and then put the king in check here and take this pawn. and then the king would have to move back here, and then queen could go here to h2 for checkmate, if you guys can see that. But that didn't happen. He is pushing my knight back. Another idea I had was maybe moving my knight to this square. I think that's what I did, yeah. It's still central. It's an octaknight. You can go here. You have a lot of different squares in the middle. Very powerful knight. He pins my queen, which is a very strong move. I don't like it. His rook and his bishop both attacking this knight. What I do is I push a little pawn up, at least to defend the knight. I don't like this because my knight is stuck here. Once I move the knight, he's going to take my queen. He begins to attack my bishop. I push it back. And what's good about this pawn is not only is it defending the knight, but it's giving my bishop an escape route. And we move my queen here, pinning the king with this pawn. It does leave this knight less defended, so he would win a pawn in this trade. Bishop takes knight, pawn takes bishop, rook takes the pawn, he's up a pawn. So I realized that. Why I'm moving my queen here to b6 is because it unpins the queen, it pins the king here, and this pawn is going to be a bit vulnerable because after my pawn is here, this rook is going to have this open aisle. You see, he pushed his king defense and moved these pawns to attack my bishop. His king is becoming less defended here, and you'll realize that for the rest of the game. Yes, he's pestering my bishop. He's pushing his pawns up. My bishop just slides back. What does it want me to do? It says maybe I should have moved here instead. That actually would be a better move because it's defended here. That actually is a much better move. Yeah. Oh well. Because yeah, having my bishop here would also allow my knight to fork the rook and the king being protected by the bishop. So that was a mistake. Anyways, he goes ahead and takes my knight. We take it back. Rook comes down. What do I do here? I believe what I do is my bishop attacks this pawn. Kind of a little reckless kamikaze, but I do that once in a while because, again, now once my bishop is out of the way, I don't know if he sees this. Yeah, he could eat it with the rook, he could eat it with the pawn. I don't care. My rook is attacking this pawn, my queen is attacking this pawn. Look at his defense. There's really not a whole lot of, there's no knights. Nothing around here. His pawn defense is breaking down. So we sacrifice the bishop. It says this allows the opponent to force the eventual checkmate. This ignores a better way to capture a free bishop. So he's saying he probably should have took it with a rook. Great. Your opponent has no escape. You can force a checkmate with the correct moves. Okay. I'm not sure if I made all the right moves. I probably didn't. Probably made a mistake here. His king moves back one. Now, in this situation, I'm wondering if my queen, what I'm supposed to do to force that checkmate. What I end up doing was going here, check. King has to move back here. And this is probably where I made my mistake. I went ahead and I saw the free bishop across the board, and I took it. I'm seeing that this probably is a mistake. Your opponent has escaped a checkmate and got a second chance. I saw the bishop here. I like to be to I sacrificed one of my bishops. So I think the right move. What would what in retrospect, I'm trying to see and learn what would have been the better move. I'm thinking maybe moving the rook down here. Maybe if my rook comes down here, uh, what is my opponent going to do? My opponent doesn't have a whole lot of options. Um, I don't really see too many options here. What could he possibly do? He could put his queen in the way or something, sacrifice his queen to slow me down, maybe. But let's just say rook takes pawn, and then this would be checkmate, right? So I think that would have forced the checkmate. I don't see anything he could have done. He would be losing his queen. Let's say that happens. I could probably go like this too. And then he would go here, and then I would go here. If he goes here, we take. Actually, we take. Oh, we take with the queen. That would have been checkmate. So again, I let's see. We ended up taking his bishop. I saw the bishop. I wanted the bishop. The pawn is blocking me from moving back to that side. Okay, you had a chance to play something better. He's saying moving my pawn up would have been better, I guess. I'm just trying to get my queen back towards this area here. Look at this wide open area from him pushing up his pawns. He is offering to trade his queen. I don't like to trade my queen unless I feel like my opponent is much better with his queen. So I usually try to avoid trading queens. He's saying maybe moving his queen here would have been better, because then he can force his pawn down here. That wouldn't be good. Because then my pawn couldn't take. I'd have to probably move my pawn up one. And then queen takes this pawn here. Do you see how dangerous that could get? If queen comes here, that would be really bad positioning. Anyways, we put the king in check just to see what he does. He is trying to trade with the queen again. I say no thank you. At this point, I have a minute and 14. He has a minute and 11 seconds. This would also fix his double pawn. And at this point, I did a quick point counting. I have 6 pawns. He has 5 pawns. Both have 2 rooks, 1 queen. I'm up 1 pawn. I could have traded this down, but I said, you know what? I really like my positioning better. I have this rook on this open aisle controlled. Yes, this pawn here might be going soon. I bring my queen here. I want him to take this pawn. It's a little bit of a bait because I want my queen to have access to come down to this square and put him in check. I don't actually even see the checkmate, but I know having two two of these aisles, these columns controlled, I would be in very good position. So he takes my pawn. This misses an opportunity to challenge the opposing rook for the open file. Yes, that would have been a better move, moving his rook here. Um, but if he did that, I would just trade out my rook, king eats, and then my other second rook would come here, still controlling this aisle. Another idea I had was maybe like double rooking up. But what I did here is because I do have this angle back, and my queen is now back on the left side of the board. King is in check. Look at this. His defense is not anywhere near his king. This is a dangerous situation going on. And the only move, and you found it. This steps away from the checking queen. You missed an opportunity to eventually win a queen. How? What? He's saying moving my rook here, because then this would force checkmate here. Okay, I see what he's saying. He says rook here, and then taking this pawn if I can. Then the queen would have to block, and then yeah. I see what he's saying. This works too. This works too. This is fine. The rook here is attacking the queen, and it's also threatening checkmate. This permits the opponent to force eventual checkmate. Oop, battery's dying. Well, at this point, you can kind of see my next move. Rook to h4. Not quite checkmate. Your opponent will be forced into checkmate if you find the right moves. Nice, you found a way to win the queen. Yes, because the queen will have to block it. And whether the queen takes or the rook takes, that will be checkmate. So we cornered him. We trapped him. You did it. Nice checkmate. So this could have gone way better. This is a good note, at least for myself. When you have a pretty strong attack on the king side, don't just be tempted by the free piece. A lot of times sometimes you just got to let those free pieces go and try to look for the lines of how to. If you have checkmate, you could be throwing the game by running away to the other side of the board here. I didn't make all the best moves, the best possible moves, according to this AI expert here, but eventually we found a way to make it work and sealed the deal. Checkmate, and overall pretty good game. We actually maybe we'll look at another game I had recently, real quick. Let's see. How do I go to archive? Yeah. I think I had another good game. Was this it here? Maybe this wasn't it. Let me just see if this is it. I think this is it. Yeah. Okay. So we're starting off with the London opening here. Pop the bishop. Close the gate on him. He's deploying both his knights. I have this is the London sort of little triangle thing going on here. The reason why I like this compared to the Queen's Gambit is the knight can't go here. When you do the Queen's Gambit, the knight kind of comes here and can kind of cause some trouble. I like this. Bishop takes this angle. What I should have done here was pop my bishop right here to challenge. If he takes, queen moves up. Instead, I made it's not a mistake, but I moved my knight. He is jumping to this square, which is not usually recommended. He should work on deploying his other pieces first. We go ahead and trade knights. And then I said, yes, now I can finally do what I should have done, is challenge the bishop. And there we go. 2 knights and 2 bishops have just been removed from the board. Easier to see the board now. He continues to develop. I pop the knight out. At this point, I could castle left or right. Queenside or kingside would be okay. He attacks my bishop, and again, you've seen me do this in other videos, is I just, oh, actually, instead of moving my bishop back, I do something different. I offer this sort of trade in the middle. Do you want to take my knight? You can take my knight. And he does. So we take back, he takes, and my pawn moves over here. In this position, I like white's position a little bit better. Black's isn't bad at all. He goes ahead and castles kingside. See, usually what I like to do in this situation, is maybe just move my bishop back. Bishop takes and pawn takes. And I have this open rook isle. But anyways, I just went with this. I pop my bishop, my pawn up to do this structure, very strong, protecting pawns here. Gridlock in the middle. We go ahead and castle queenside. We have this queen and rook on this side, but again, the pawns here are a good defense as well. He pushes up his pawn. We are beginning to both attack with our pawns. He brings his queen out here. I just slide the king over. He attacks with his pawn. Look at this. Black actually has some pretty good control over here in the middle. Kind of taking over the white squares while I have the green squares. We move the queen back one. He continues his attack with the pawns. I try to sort of do something on the same with my pawns. He does not take it. I wanted him to take it so I could take, and the rook would have this nice isle here. He pushes his pawn up. At this point, okay, I think I better just take his pawn. He takes back with his queen. At this point, what would you do? This is dangerous. His rook just slides over here, and he's got a very powerful attack going on this side. Pushing down his pawns could be an issue. In this scenario, I think I move my rook over. No, that's right. I move my queen because I'm scared his pawn's going to come down here. My pawn can't eat his because then I'll be in check, so I wouldn't be able to do that. So I move my queen just in case he's thinking about moving his pawn. Again, if he slid his rook over here, oof, that would have been devastating. He moves his pawn up, which is fine. I think again, the rook should have came down. I bring my rook in alignment with his king, planning to just move my pawn over to take his. He brings his pawn up again. We do this little attack to say, hey, queen, you gotta move. And instead of running away, he presses inward to trade queens. I say, do I really want to trade queens? I'm doing a quick count. If you're ahead in the game, you should trade. Usually you should trade. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 pawns. And he's got 7 pawns. Both got 2 rooks, just like last game. It's a tie game at this point. He goes ahead and takes it with his pawn. Let's see what happens here. He's in fairly good position. Nothing wrong with his position here. There's no pawns here where these 2 pawns are making gains, but very solid protection of his pawns here. Let's see what he does here. Oh, what I'm trying to do here when I move my rook up is maybe I'm planning to just push through here with both my rooks. He moves his rook there. I'm not too sure what he's thinking about. So there we go. We pair up our rooks. He moves his pawn up, which is fine. I believe I take his pawn. Now he can't eat it with this pawn. He's gonna eat it with this pawn. I was expecting him to eat it with this pawn. That's what I was expecting. He does not want to break up his pawn structure. He moves his rook, which is fine again to me. Um, we attack with my other pawn. He pushes up. At this point, he wants my pawn to eat his pawn, and I ain't gonna do that. His rook's gonna come down, protecting this pawn, and also maybe attacking this pawn. I don't want to do that. Instead, why did I do that? What's my idea there? Um, Not too sure. I was thinking maybe pushing my pawn up. Is that what I was thinking? I don't know. Anyways, his rook comes that way. I think I'm gonna force a rook trade here. The reason why I'm okay with that is because this pawn will be grouped with this pawn. A loose pawn with he's much stronger with his buddies. So we have this weird pawn structure going on. This is kind of worrisome here. So my rook is going to have to come in and help soon. So he takes my pawn. I eat it back. His rook alone won't be enough to defend once I bring in my rook. Because I have the king and the rook here, he's going to lose the pawn. And this was my advantage here, is that the king in the endgame can be a very powerful piece. Doesn't need to hide behind things. And we then take his pawn. At this point, we are up one pawn. We trade rooks. I'm 100% okay with that because being up that one pawn, look how far his king is. I tried to calculate in my head, does he have enough time to get to this square? And we will find out. Looks like he is not close enough to stop my pawn from becoming a queen. Now he's in check. Now he's in trouble. Now I'm up a queen. Both have 4 pawns. At this point, most people would concede. It's now I'm just gonna pick off his little children here, and you can move all you want. I could theoretically get 4 more queens here. Or actually, he's gonna eat this. Why doesn't he eat the pawn? It's a free pawn. He doesn't eat the pawn, and I believe he resigns. He knows that he's in trouble. Let's say he goes here. See if I can checkmate him. Usually you have to be careful. I wouldn't have resigned. Sometimes I do these weird stalemate things that, and then maybe I would go here. He goes down, and see if I went here, that would be stalemate. Do you see that? That would not be good. I think maybe the safer bet would be to maybe move like over here. And then he has to go here, and then this would be checkmate. This is I don't, there's probably a faster way to do it, but this is just how I like to finish my checkmates is to do the whole two aisle control checkmate. I don't know. Maybe there was a faster way of doing it, but he knows it's over. I could have just got a bunch of queens, or sometimes instead of getting a queen, sometimes I think maybe getting a rook is actually safer. If you have this much advantage, sometimes having two queens and the angles and diagonals that they cover, sometimes it's actually safer to just get a rook. Anyways, that is it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Check out my other videos. Thanks for watching.